The city hummed with life. Vendors arranged their displays. Tourists snapped photos, and morning commuters grabbed coffee. Among the bustling crowd, a modest fruit stand stood with fresh produce carefully arranged by its owner, Rosa Martinez, a 60-year-old woman with weathered hands and a gentle smile. She'd been selling fruit on this corner for 23 years. That was about to end. A black Mercedes SUV screeched to a stop at the curb, blocking traffic. Car horns blared. The driver stepped out to open the rear door, and Claudia Whitmore emerged like a storm given human form. She wore a cream Chanel suit that cost more than Rosa made in 3 months. Her Hermes bag swung from her arm as she stalked toward the fruit stand, her face twisted with rage. "You." Claudia's voice cut through the street noise like a knife. "You poisoned me." Rosa looked up, confused. "Senora? I don't understand. Don't you dare play stupid with me." Claudia grabbed an apple from the display and threw it to the ground. "I bought fruit from this disgusting stand yesterday, and I've been sick all night. You tried to kill me with your rotten, toxic garbage." "Senora, please, all my fruit is fresh." Rosa's hands trembled as she tried to calm this furious stranger. "Fresh?" Claudia's laugh was venomous. She swept her arm across the display, sending apples, oranges, and pears tumbling into the street. "This is garbage. You're selling poison to people. You should be arrested. You're probably not even in this country legally, are you? Just another illegal immigrant selling contaminated filth to real Americans." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "Please, Senora, I have permits. Everything is legal. I don't care about your fake permits." Claudia leaned in close, her voice dropping to something even more dangerous. "You're nothing but street trash. A worthless old woman selling poison because you're too stupid and lazy to do anything legitimate. People like you are a disease in this city. Please, you're destroying my—" Rosa reached to save her fruit. The slap echoed down the street. Claudia's hand connected with Rosa's face with such force that the older woman stumbled backward, knocking over crates of carefully arranged produce. Rosa fell, catching herself on the edge of her stand, her cheek already reddening. The street went silent. Pedestrians stopped, shocked. Someone pulled out their phone to record. "That's what you get for poisoning your betters." Claudia shrieked, standing over the fallen woman. "Next time, maybe you'll think twice before selling your disgusting third-world garbage to people who actually matter. You're lucky I don't have you deported. You're lucky I don't sue you for everything you don't have, which is nothing because you're nothing." Rosa held her face, tears streaming, unable to speak. Claudia grabbed her Hermes bag, stepped over the scattered fruit, and stormed back to her SUV. Before getting in, she turned back one last time. "Clean up this mess, you pathetic creature, and get off MY Street. This neighborhood is for real people, not peasants like you." The Mercedes pulled away, leaving Rosa surrounded by her destroyed livelihood, her ruined fruit, and a crowd of witnesses too shocked to immediately help. One young woman, Maria, on her way to work at a catering job, rushed over to help Rosa up. "Are you okay? Should we call the police?" Rosa shook her head, still trembling. "No police. Please. I cannot afford trouble. I just want to work." Maria helped gather the scattered fruit, anger burning in her chest. She'd remember that face, that cruel, beautiful face twisted with contempt. She'd remember what unchecked privilege looked like when it decided someone else was beneath consideration. "Here," Maria said, pulling out what little cash she had from her purse. "Please, take this. For the fruit she destroyed." No, you helped me. Take it, please. And I'm going to remember her. I promise you, if I ever see that woman again, I'll make sure people know what she did." Maria's voice was fierce. "She won't get away with this forever." Rosa took the money with shaking hands, her cheek still burning from the slap. "Thank you, Mija. God bless you." Maria had no idea she'd see that face again in just 3 weeks. At Marcus Chen's wedding, where everything would finally come crashing down. The Grand Meridian Hotel Ballroom, 3 weeks later. The Grand Meridian Hotel Ballroom glittered like a constellation brought to Earth. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing light across 500 of society's elite, gathered for the wedding of Marcus Chun, billionaire tech mogul and best friend to software titan James Whitmore. Claudia Whitmore swept through the crowd like a queen surveying peasants. Her emerald gown cost more than most people's cars, her diamond necklace more than most people's homes. At 32, she perfected the art of making everyone feel inferior with just a glance. The street vendor incident? Already forgotten. Rosa Martinez wasn't important enough to remember. She was just another face in the faceless mass of people Claudia considered beneath her notice. You there? Claudia snapped her fingers at a young server. Maria, the same woman who'd helped Rosa, who was carefully balancing a tray of champagne flutes. These glasses are disgusting. Did you wash them in gutter water? Or are you just naturally incompetent? Maria's face flushed with recognition and barely suppressed rage. She knew exactly who this monster was. I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll get fresh. Sorry doesn't fix your stupidity, does it? God, where do they find you people? Did you even finish high school? Or were you too busy perfecting your mediocrity? Claudia plucked a glass, examined it like it was covered in filth, then thrust it back so hard Maria had to grab the tray with both hands. Champagne splashed across the server's uniform. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Claudia's laugh was ice. Look at you, dripping like a wet dog. Go clean yourself up before you embarrass the people who actually matter here. And try not to ruin anyone else's evening with your peasant-level incompetence. Maria's eyes filled with tears, but not from sadness. From fury. She wanted to tell this monster exactly what she'd witnessed 3 weeks ago. Wanted to scream that she'd helped clean up the fruit, held Rosa while she cried, heard the old woman say she couldn't afford to replace all that destroyed produce. But Maria needed this job. So she swallowed her rage and walked away, mentally cataloging every word, every insult, every moment of Claudia's cruelty. Claudia had already dismissed her existence, gliding toward a group of women, her voice carrying deliberately. The help these days is absolutely bottom barrel. I swear they're scraping DNA from under rocks and calling it human. James keeps telling me I should be kinder to the staff. She laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. Why? They should be grateful I even acknowledge their existence. Without people like me, they'd be begging on street corners. Or worse, selling rotten fruit on sidewalks like common street vendors. Her friends laughed. None of them knew about Rosa. None of them would have cared if they did. Across the ballroom, another woman made her entrance. Simone Laurent was everything Claudia pretended to be. Effortlessly elegant, genuinely confident, and utterly unbothered by the opinions of others. She was also James Whitmore's secret companion for the past 8 months, and she matched Claudia's arrogance degree for degree. Simone's path intersected with an older server named Robert, who was directing guests to their tables. Excuse me, ma'am, if you'll follow me to, Robert began politely. Do I look like I need direction from someone who makes minimum wage? Simone cut him off with a withering stare. I'm perfectly capable of finding my own way without help from the service class. Maybe focus on people who actually need your assistance. She emphasized the last word like it was an insult. Robert's jaw tightened, but years of experience had taught him silence. Simone swept past him without a second glance. The two women hadn't yet spotted each other. That was about to change. James Whitmore stood near the bar, oblivious to the approaching storm. At 45, he'd built his fortune in artificial intelligence, but he'd proven far less intelligent in matters of the heart. He'd married Claudia for her beauty and social connections. He'd turned to Simone for reasons that were about to spectacularly backfire. The moment came during the toast. Marcus Chun raised his glass, the crowd quieted, and in that pocket of silence, Claudia's voice carried like a whip. James, darling, come stand with your wife. The one who actually belongs on your arm, not lurking among the nobodies. James turned, his face paling. Because Simone, standing 15 feet away, had just registered Claudia's presence and spoken simultaneously. James, sweetheart, I saved you a seat. In the section for people with actual class. The ballroom seemed to freeze. 500 pairs of eyes swiveled between the two women, then to James, who looked like he wanted the marble floor to swallow him whole. Claudia's expression transformed from confusion to comprehension to volcanic rage in 3 seconds flat. Who? She said, her voice dropping to something lethal. Is that discount bin Barbie doll? Simone's eyes narrowed dangerously. Discount? Honey, I'm sorry, who dressed you? Your blind grandmother? That dress screams trying too hard with the subtlety of a foghorn. You have exactly 3 seconds to explain who you are before I have security drag you out by your cheap extensions. Oh, how delightful. The wife has a bark. Does she have a brain to match? Or is it all hot air and borrowed jewelry? Simone took a step forward. I'm Simone Laurent. Perhaps your husband has mentioned me during pillow talk? Oh wait, I doubt there's much talking in your bedroom. Or much of anything else, from what James tells me. The crowd gasped. Several people reached for their phones. Claudia stalked towards Simone with predatory grace, her voice rising. You're sleeping with my husband? You common little tramp. You're not even worthy of licking the bottom of my Louboutins. Do you have any idea who I am? A delusional woman in denial? Simone shot back, matching her stride. Let me educate you, since you clearly need it. I'm the woman your husband actually wants. The upgrade. The one with an actual personality instead of just a credit card and a superiority complex. Upgrade. Claudia's voice could have shattered the chandeliers. You're a downgrade from gutter trash. Look at you. You're like something someone ordered from a bargain catalog. Wife replacement, budget edition. How much does James pay you per hour? Because that's all you are, a rental. At least I'm being rented. Simone's laugh was vicious. You're the unwanted purchase gathering dust on the shelf. Tell me, Claudia, how long has it been since your husband touched you without closing his eyes and pretending you're someone else? The crowd was in chaos now. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Marcus Chun tried to step between them, but both women ignored him completely. How dare you? Claudia's face flushed crimson. I am Claudia Westbrook Whitmore. My family has more pedigree in one fingernail than your entire bloodline. I went to Vassar. I speak 4 languages. I have lunched with senators and dined with foreign dignitaries. What have you done besides spread your legs for a married man? I've made your husband happy, which is apparently something you're catastrophically incapable of doing. Simone's smile was razor-sharp. Tell me, does it hurt knowing you're so inadequate that he had to go shopping elsewhere? That everything you thought made you special, your name, your family, your precious education, couldn't keep your own husband interested? My husband is mine. Claudia shrieked. He is my property. I made him into who he is. Before me, he was just another socially awkward tech nerd with money and no idea how to spend it. I taught him how to dress, how to speak, which wines to order, which people mattered. He would be nothing without me. Oh, how romantic, Simone drawled. You turned your husband into an accessory, a trained pet, and then you're shocked, when he finds someone who treats him like an actual human being. James. Claudia whirled on her husband, who'd been frozen in horror throughout the exchange. Tell this gutter snipe who you belong to. Tell her that she's nothing. A nobody. A worthless little distraction that means nothing. James opened his mouth, but Simone spoke first. Go ahead, James. Tell her. Tell her how you call out my name. Tell her how you've been planning to leave her for months. Tell her how you told me she's a beautiful nightmare you've been trying to wake up from. You liar. Claudia lunged, but security had finally mobilized. 2 guards grabbed her arms as she fought like a wildcat. Get your filthy peasant hands off me. Do you know who I am? I could buy and sell your entire families. James. Tell them to let me go. Simone laughed, the sound carrying across the silent ballroom. Look at you. The great Claudia Whitmore, being hauled away like common trash. How does it feel to be on the other side for once? How does it feel to be the one people look down on? I will destroy you. Claudia screamed as security pulled her toward the exit. I will ruin you. You're nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. A nobody from nowhere with no class, no breeding, no worth. You're garbage. Garbage. But Simone wasn't finished. As Claudia was being removed, she called out. At least I didn't have to trap a man with lies, Claudia. At least I didn't have to fake a pregnancy to keep him. Oh yes, James told me everything. Claudia froze, even as security tried to move her. Her face went white, then red. That's confidential. That's between husband and wife. Not when the husband is in my bed, sweetheart. Marcus Chin finally found his voice. Enough. Both of you out. Now, security moved on Simone as well. She didn't fight, but her parting shot was brutal. Enjoy your divorce, Claudia. I'm sure you'll find another rich man to leech onto. Maybe try someone blind this time. They won't see through you as quickly. As both women were escorted from the ballroom, Claudia still screaming obscenities, Simone laughing cruelly. The crowd stood in stunned silence. Jennifer, the bride, stood with red wine splattered across her white gown from Claudia's attempted attack on Simone. Maria and Robert watched from the sidelines with the other staff, their expressions carefully neutral, but their eyes speaking volumes. 3 weeks ago, I watched her destroy an old woman's fruit stand, Maria whispered to Robert. Slapped her across the face. Called her things I won't repeat. The woman was 60 years old, and Claudia hit her like she was nothing. Robert's eyes widened. Did you report it? The victim was too scared. Didn't want trouble. Didn't want to lose her vendor's license. But I remember everything. Every word, Claudia screamed. And now look at her, getting exactly what she deserves. What goes around? Robert replied quietly. Karma has a way of finding people. Sometimes it just needs witnesses willing to speak up. When this is over, Maria said, her voice steel, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to tell everyone what I saw. That old woman deserves justice. Neither woman being escorted out heard them. Both were too busy being forcibly removed, still hurling insults at each other through security guards. James stood alone in the center of the ballroom, his phone already buzzing with notifications. The videos were going viral. His double life was now global entertainment. A text from his elderly father appeared. Son, what have you done? The whole world is watching. James closed his eyes. This was only the beginning. Claudia Whitmore didn't just pride herself on control. She believed it was her birthright. Born into old money, educated at elite schools, married into even more money. She saw the world as a hierarchy with her perched firmly at the top. Everyone else existed to serve her needs. Superiority isn't arrogance when it's factual, she'd once told James. It's just reality. Some people are born to lead. Others are born to follow. I didn't make the rules, darling. I just benefit from them. This philosophy extended to everyone in her life, including her father-in-law. Harold Whitmore was everything Claudia despised, self-made, humble, unimpressed by social pretension. He'd built his fortune through hard work rather than inheritance, drove an old car because it still runs fine, and had the audacity to show up at their mansion unannounced. Families shouldn't need appointments, Harold would say, which made Claudia's blood boil. His latest visit came on a Tuesday afternoon. Claudia was hosting her book club, women who'd never finished a book but loved the wine and gossip. Harold arrived mid-discussion. Jamie, Harold called out warmly. Where's my boy? Claudia appeared in the foyer, her smile sharp as glass. Harold, what an unexpected intrusion. Now, Claudia, no need to be formal. We're family. Family respects boundaries, Harold. Family doesn't barge in like common door-to-door salesmen. Harold chuckled, missing the venom in her tone. You're a card, Claudia. Is Jamie home? He's working, as successful people do during business hours. She emphasized the word successful deliberately, unlike some people who have excessive free time. Well, I'm retired. That's what happens when you build a company successfully enough that it runs without you. Claudia's eye twitched. The old man never took her bait. How quaint. Would you like tea while you wait for James to finish doing important things? That'd be wonderful. You're a good hostess when you try. The backhanded compliment was the last straw. In the kitchen, away from her guests, Claudia opened her locked cabinet of emergency supplies. She selected a powerful prescription laxative and crushed 6 pills into powder. Stupid old fool, she muttered, stirring the powder into Harold's tea. Walking into MY house like he owns it. Like he has any right to disrupt MY's schedule with his peasant-level manners. He wants to act common? Fine. He can feel common too. A week of his life wasted on a toilet. That's exactly what his time is worth. Maybe then he'll learn that people like him need to stay in their place. Below me, she brought the tea out on her finest china, her smile saccharine. Here you are, Harold. English breakfast. I made it especially for you. With extra care. You're too kind, Claudia. Oh, I know exactly how kind I am. I know precisely what people deserve. Harold drank the entire cup while Claudia watched, imagining his upcoming misery with satisfaction. This was her house, her domain. He would learn to respect it. He would learn that Claudia Westbrook Whitmore was not to be crossed, not to be inconvenienced, not to be treated as anything less than the superior being she was. Within 2 hours, Harold was violently ill. By evening, he was in the emergency room, and Claudia's reaction told everyone everything they needed to know about her character. Is he dying? She asked the doctor, her tone suggesting she was inquiring about the weather. He's critically dehydrated, Mrs. Whitmore. His electrolytes are dangerously imbalanced. We're doing everything we can. How long will he need to recover? Mrs. Whitmore, your father-in-law is fighting for his life. Yes, but how long before he's back to normal? I have a charity gala next week, and I really can't have this drama overshadowing it. People will ask questions. It's terribly inconvenient. James, standing beside her, looked at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Claudia, my father might die. Don't be dramatic, James. The doctor said they're doing everything they can. I'm simply asking about timelines so I can plan accordingly. She checked her phone, scrolling through social media. Oh God, I hope none of the hospital staff leak this. Can you imagine the press? Tech billionaire's father hospitalized. They'll make it sound so sordid. So common. That's what you're worried about? Press. Someone has to think about our image, darling. You're too emotional to do it. That's always been your problem. Too much feeling, not enough strategic thinking. It's why you need me. A nurse passing by overheard this exchange and made a note in her report. Patient's daughter-in-law shows concerning lack of empathy. Possible family dynamics issue. Harold survived, but barely. 7 days in the hospital, multiple 4 bags, endless medical interventions. And when he was finally lucid, lying in that sterile hospital bed, he looked at his son and spoke the truth. That wife of yours, she did this, Jamie. Dad, you're confused. I'm not confused. I'm old, not stupid. Harold's grip on James's hand was surprisingly strong. The tea. She insisted I drink it. Watched me like a hawk. Made sure I finished every drop. And her face when I got sick. Jamie, she didn't look surprised. She looked satisfied. Like she'd accomplished something. That's crazy. Is it? Really think about it, son. Think about who she is. What she's capable of. How she treats people. Harold coughed, his throat raw. I've watched her for years. The way she talks to your staff. The way she looks at people she thinks are beneath her. The cruelty in her eyes when she thinks no one important is watching. James wanted to dismiss it as paranoia. But a small voice in his head whispered, remember how she talked about people. Remember what she said about your assistant last week. Some people are just better off not existing. Remember the street vendor incident you heard about. The one where someone matching Claudia's description assaulted an elderly woman. You dismissed it. But what if it was her? Just be careful, son. Please. That woman is dangerous. Not just to me, to everyone around her, including you. Meanwhile, Claudia's reign of terror extended to James's workplace. Dr. Sarah Chun, his chief technology officer, was brilliant. MIT PhD at 24, revolutionary patents, respected globally. She was also attractive, which Claudia viewed as a threat requiring elimination. Claudia showed up at the office unannounced, sweeping through like she owned the place. She found Sarah in a meeting with James, discussing code architecture. James, darling, we need to leave. Our reservation at Le Bernardin is in 30 minutes. Claudia, we don't have a reservation tonight. I'm in a meeting. Of course we do. I made it weeks ago. She turned to Sarah with a smile that could freeze helium. You don't mind, do you? Of course you don't. I'm sure whatever you're discussing can wait. After all, it's not like you have anything better to do than hang around other women's husbands. That seems to be your specialty, being where you don't belong. Sarah blinked. Excuse me. Oh, did I stutter? Let me use smaller words since you're clearly confused. James is busy with his wife. Now, Claudia picked up Sarah's tablet and examined it like it was covered in filth. What is this, Android? How economical. I suppose not everyone can afford Apple products. Some people have to settle for the cheap alternatives. In technology and in life. That's a custom-built development tablet worth $15,000, Sarah said evenly. How nice for you. Spending company money on toys. My husband's money, actually. Since everything in this company ultimately belongs to James, which means it belongs to me. Claudia set it down dismissively. James, let's go. Now. Claudia, I'm not leaving. Sarah and I are in the middle of. In the middle of what, exactly? Claudia's voice dropped to something dangerous. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like another woman spending an awful lot of time alone with my husband. Tell me, Sarah, is it Dr. Chin? Do you insist people use your title? Do you make them acknowledge your little academic achievement so they don't forget you once accomplished something? How insecure. Claudia, James stood up, horrified. That's completely inappropriate. Is it? Or is it inappropriate that your chief technology officer wears perfume to work? That she laughs a little too loudly at your jokes? That she finds excuses to touch your arm during presentations? I notice things, James. I notice when women forget their place. I have never touched James inappropriately, Sarah said coldly, her professional mask cracking slightly. But I am about to touch my lawyer to discuss hostile work environment claims. Oh, please. You should be grateful I even tolerate your presence. You're replaceable, Sarah. Just another smart little Asian girl with a degree. They're a dime a dozen in Silicon Valley. Interchangeable. Forgettable. But me? I'm irreplaceable. I'm a Westbrook. My family founded 3 Fortune 500 companies before your grandparents even immigrated here. We were building empires when your people were, well, wherever they were. I don't know your people's history, and frankly, I don't care. You're here now, in MY husband's company, and you need to remember that you exist here at MY's sufferance. The room went silent. The racism hung in the air like poison. Get out, James said quietly. Claudia, get out of my office right now. Excuse me. You heard me. Leave. Before I have security escort you out like the common bully you're acting like. Claudia's laugh was brittle. You wouldn't dare. I'm your wife. You don't throw your wife out for defending her marriage from predatory employees. James picked up his phone. Security? I need someone to escort Mrs. Whitmore from the building. Immediately. Claudia's face went through several shades of red before settling on volcanic. Fine. Fine. Enjoy your little office romance, James. But remember, when she shows her true colors, when she inevitably fails you the way all common people do, when you realize that she's just using you for money and status, I'll be there to remind you that you threw away the best thing that ever happened to you for a diversity hire who doesn't even belong in this country. She slammed the door so hard the frame cracked. Sarah sat down slowly, her hands shaking. James, I can't work like this. I know. I'm so sorry. I'll handle it. But he didn't handle it. He avoided it. He made excuses. He told himself Claudia would calm down, that it was just jealousy, that it would pass. Instead, it escalated. Claudia began calling Sarah directly, leaving voicemails that ranged from passive-aggressive to overtly threatening. Hello, Sarah. Just calling to remind you that I know where you live. Not a threat, of course. Just an observation. We do live in the same neighborhood, after all. 304 Pine Street, isn't it? Lovely home. Very flammable looking. All that wood. One spark and whoosh. But I'm sure you have excellent insurance. You seem like the type who plans ahead. For most things, anyway. Though you didn't plan for me, did you? She showed up at company events and accidentally spilled drinks on Sarah's presentations, knocked her laptop bag off tables, and made loud comments about affirmative action hires and diversity quotas lowering standards within earshot. The worst came during a board meeting that Claudia insisted on attending as James's wife. I'm confused, Claudia said, interrupting Sarah's presentation about new AI protocols. Could you explain this in simpler terms? I'm sure some of us in the room don't have the benefit of your extensive technical education. Some of us got where we are through actual merit and family legacy rather than diversity programs. Which part needs clarification, Mrs. Whitmore? Sarah asked professionally, though her jaw was tight. All of it, frankly. It sounds like technobabble designed to make you sound smarter than you actually are. My husband could explain this in half the time and make it actually comprehensible. But I suppose that's the difference between real genius and, well, adequate competence achieved through lowered standards. Amanda Rodriguez, VP of Operations, spoke up. Claudia, that's enough. Sarah's presentation is excellent and completely appropriate for this audience. Is it, Amanda? Last I checked, Amanda, you work for my husband, not the other way around. Perhaps you should remember that before you speak to me like we're equals. Because we're not. Not even close. You're an employee. A well-paid employee, I'll grant you, but still someone who depends on my husband's generosity for your livelihood. Amanda stood up, her face flushed with anger. I work for James's company. I don't work for you. You're a spouse, not an executive. You have no authority here whatsoever. I have all the authority I need. I'm the one sleeping next to the man who signs your paychecks. I'm the one who whispers in his ear at night. I'm the one who shapes his opinions about who deserves to stay and who deserves to go. Claudia's smile was poison, and I have very persuasive pillow talk. Keep that in mind before you get too comfortable in your position, Amanda. People like you, women like you, you're always one bad quarter away from being replaced by someone younger, prettier, and more grateful. someone who knows their place. The board meeting ended early. 3 people resigned within the week, citing hostile work environment created by executive spouse. James finally confronted Claudia that night. You can't keep doing this. You're destroying my company. You're driving away talented people. Your company? Your company. Claudia's laugh could have cut glass. Darling, without me, you wouldn't have half your investors. Without my connections, without my family's reputation and social standing, your IPO would have flopped. Everything you have because of me and MY family and MY social standing. Those women you're so desperate to protect? They're parasites feeding off your success, which is really MY success when you think about it. So yes, I can do this. I can do whatever I want. Because you need me more than you need them. You need me more than you need anyone. Do I? Something in his tone made Claudia pause. For the first time in their marriage, she saw real resistance in her husband's eyes. Real questioning. Real doubt. So she played her trump card. I'm pregnant. The lie came out smooth as silk, practiced 100 times in front of mirrors. She watched James's face transform. Shock, joy, confusion, fear, hope. You're what? Pregnant. With your child. Our child. Claudia placed a hand on her flat stomach with theatrical tenderness. 12 weeks. I've been waiting for the right time to tell you. I wanted to be sure everything was stable, that the pregnancy was viable before I got your hopes up. It was a masterful manipulation. The fake positive pregnancy test had cost $300 online. The hormone shots she'd been injecting herself with produced real morning sickness symptoms. She'd researched every detail, anticipated every question, prepared for every eventuality. But we've been trying for years. Miracles happen, James. Maybe it's all the stress finally lifting. Maybe the universe is telling us we're meant to be together forever. Maybe this is fate. She moved close, placing his hand on her stomach. This changes everything, doesn't it? Sarah and Amanda and all those other women trying to take your attention, they don't matter now. Nothing matters except our family. Our child. Our future. James, trapped in the lie, overwhelmed by years of wanting a child, nodded slowly. Yeah, you're right. This changes everything. Claudia smiled, triumphant. She had him exactly where she wanted him, bound to her not just by marriage vows, but by the promise of fatherhood, by a child that didn't exist. For 3 months, she played the role perfectly. Doctor's appointments at convenient times when James couldn't attend. The obstetrician is so busy, darling, and you have that conference call. You understand. Morning sickness episodes that required his constant attention. Discussions about nursery colors and baby names. She even started wearing slightly larger clothes and padding to suggest a growing belly. She used the pregnancy to push Sarah, Amanda, and every other woman even further from James's orbit. The baby can't have stress, she'd say, her hand protectively on her stomach. Your late nights at the office, your business dinners with female colleagues. The doctor says it's affecting the pregnancy. My blood pressure. The baby's development. I need you home more. Our child needs you home more. James, guilty and excited and terrified of losing this miracle, complied with everything. He canceled business trips. He rescheduled meetings. He prioritized Claudia's pregnancy needs above all else. Sarah watched this manipulation with growing concern. She's not pregnant, she told Amanda over coffee. I can't prove it, but something's wrong. The timeline doesn't add up. The symptoms seem theatrical. Even if she's not, what can we do? Amanda replied, exhausted. James believes her. He's so desperate for a child that he's not thinking clearly. And if we accuse her of faking a pregnancy and we're wrong, we'd be the villains. The jealous female colleagues trying to destroy his marriage. Sarah stirred her coffee with more force than necessary. She's got us trapped. She's got everyone trapped. That's her specialty. They had no idea that the trap was about to spring on Claudia herself. Until the day James came home early and found Claudia in their bedroom with a syringe, surrounded by empty hormone vials and fake pregnancy test packaging. What is this? Claudia froze mid-injection. The syringe dropped from her hand, clattering on the marble floor. For the first time in their marriage, she had no quick lie, no smooth explanation. The evidence was laid out like crime scene photos, fake tests, hormone vials, pharmacy receipts, medical websites about inducing pregnancy symptoms open on her laptop. James, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for 3 months? That there's no baby? That you've been, what? Poisoning yourself to fake pregnancy symptoms. I was going to get pregnant. I just needed time. Time to make things right between us. Her voice rose desperately. You were slipping away, spending all that time with those women, and you needed to trap me. No, I needed to remind you who comes first, who matters most. Those women at your office, they don't love you like I do. They don't know you like I do. They don't deserve you like I do. You don't love me, Claudia. You love controlling me. There's a difference. How dare you? Her voice hit a pitch that made the windows rattle. She stood, the syringe and evidence forgotten. I am a Westbrook. I chose you. I could have married anyone. Anyone. And I chose you. Some tech nerd who didn't know a Bordeaux from a Burgundy. Who wore cargo shorts to a yacht club. Who had money but absolutely no idea how to be somebody in society. I made you into someone worth knowing. I gave you access to society, to culture, to real power. I taught you everything. And this is how you repay me? By questioning my love. Your love, James said slowly, his voice deadly calm as he picked up a vial of hormones, involves faking a pregnancy to manipulate me. Your love involves poisoning my father. Yes, I know about that. Security footage. Your love involves terrorizing my employees. That's not love, Claudia. That's ownership. Claudia's face went white. You reviewed the security footage? You've been investigating me? Your own wife. After my father told me what you did, yes. I had to know. Your father is a senile old fool. He's imagining things. The footage shows you crushing pills into his tea. The pharmacy records show you filled a prescription for industrial-strength laxatives 3 days before his visit. You tried to kill him, Claudia. I did not. I just wanted him to be uncomfortable, to learn a lesson about respecting boundaries, about not barging into MY house whenever he felt like it. He's not the master here. I am. She was screaming now, all pretense of control gone. This is MY domain, my territory, and everyone needs to remember their place in the hierarchy. Your father, your employees, those pathetic little service workers who can barely speak English. They all need to remember that they are beneath me, that I am superior, because you're mine. She grabbed a lamp and threw it against the wall, where it shattered. You're my husband, my possession. I own you. And those women, those insignificant, inferior women, they have no right to your time, your attention, your anything. They're nothing. Can't you see that? They're beneath us. Beneath me. She started grabbing clothes from the closet, throwing them, destroying anything within reach. I am a Westbrook. Do you understand what that means? My family has ruled society for generations. We don't apologize. We don't explain. We don't bow to common people. Those women, Sarah with her little PhD, Amanda with her pathetic middle-class upbringing. They should be grateful I even let them breathe the same air as us. Get out. Claudia froze mid-destruction. What? Pack a bag. Go to the plaza. We're done talking tonight. We're done with everything. You can't throw me out of my own house. Our house. The one MY money paid for. And I can. I will. Leave, Claudia, before I call the police and show them the evidence of what you did to my father. Claudia's laugh was unhinged, bordering on hysterical. You wouldn't dare? Do you know what kind of scandal that would create? What it would do to your precious company's stock price? To your reputation? I don't care anymore. My father almost died because I was too much of a coward to see who you really are. I'm done being that coward. You'll regret this, she screamed, her voice cracking. She grabbed her Hermes bag and started stuffing jewelry into it. I'll take everything. Everything. You'll be nothing without me. Nothing. A social pariah. A nobody. No one will do business with you. No one will invite you anywhere. You'll be completely ostracized from everyone who matters. Then I guess I'll find out who really matters. Claudia destroyed their bedroom in her rage, throwing clothes, breaking mirrors, smashing every framed photo that had James with another woman, even professional conference photos. She took a permanent marker and wrote across their wedding photo, "You will regret this. You'll come crawling back," she shrieked as security, called by James, arrived to escort her out. When those common little bitches show their true colors. When you realize that people like them are incapable of loyalty. When you're alone and pathetic and realize you threw away a Westbrook for garbage, you'll come begging. And I'll laugh in your face. Security had to physically restrain her as they escorted her from the mansion. Her screams echoed through the halls. I'm a Westbrook. You can't touch me. I could buy your entire bloodlines. You're peasants. Nothing. I am your superior. James stood in the destroyed bedroom, surrounded by shattered glass and torn clothes, feeling lighter than he had in years. That was 1 week before Marcus Chin's wedding. 1 week before Claudia discovered Simone. 1 week before everything exploded into public spectacle. After the wedding disaster went viral, videos watched by millions, memes spreading across social media, news outlets calling it the Battle of the Billionaire's Women, James Whitmore did something revolutionary. He started listening to the people Claudia had deemed beneath notice. Maria came to his office 3 days after the wedding. She'd been fired from the hotel. Simone had complained that Maria's presence ruined the event. She had nothing left to lose. Mr. Whitmore, there's something you need to know about your wife. Your ex-wife. I'm listening. Maria took a deep breath. 3 weeks before the wedding, I watched your wife assault an elderly street vendor named Rosa Martinez. She destroyed Rosa's entire fruit stand, screamed racist insults at her, and then slapped her across the face so hard Rosa fell to the ground. James leaned forward, his expression grave. Tell me everything. The story poured out. The destroyed fruit stand. The slap that knocked Rosa to the ground. The racist insults about deportation and third world garbage. The absolute contempt for a woman whose only crime was trying to earn a living. I helped Rosa after your wife left. The old woman was terrified, too scared to call the police because she thought she'd lose her vendor's license, even though she has every legal right to be there. Your wife destroyed hundreds of dollars worth of fruit, a week's income, and Rosa was too frightened to seek justice. Do you know where I can find Rosa? Yes, I've stayed in touch with her. She's struggling. Lost a lot of business. Can't afford to replace all the equipment your wife damaged. I want to help her. I want to make this right. Maria studied him carefully. Why? What's changed? Everything. I've been complicit in Claudia's cruelty for years. I've watched her abuse people, and I've done nothing. That ends now. Words are easy, Mr. Whitmore. Rich people always have nice words after the damage is done. James nodded, accepting the criticism. You're right. So let me show you instead of telling you. Rosa needs compensation for what Claudia destroyed. She needs justice. And if she's willing to testify about what happened, I'll make sure she has the best lawyers money can buy. No cost to her. Full legal support. Maria's expression softened slightly. And what about people like me? The servers, the hotel staff, everyone your wife has abused over the years. That's a longer conversation. But if you're willing to help me document everything, everyone she's hurt, every incident, every act of cruelty, we can make sure it never happens again. To anyone. Over the next 2 weeks, James conducted what amounted to an investigation into his own marriage. The results were damning. Rosa Martinez told her story to James's lawyers, showing the medical records from the bruised cheek, the receipts for the destroyed fruit, even the video that a bystander had taken on their phone. In the shaky footage, Claudia's face was clearly visible as she screamed and struck Rosa. Robert, the hotel server, provided a list of incidents where Claudia had verbally abused staff at various events over the years. Dozens of documented cases of cruelty. Dr. Sarah Chun and Amanda Rodriguez presented their documentation of workplace harassment, months of emails, voicemails, recorded phone calls of Claudia threatening their jobs, their careers, even their safety. She told me she knew where my daughter went to school, Amanda said, her voice shaking with suppressed rage. She said it would be a shame if something happened during drop-off time. That's not jealousy, James. That's terrorism. The mansion's staff, the ones who hadn't quit, came forward with their own stories. A maid named Elena who'd had a vase thrown at her head. A gardener named Miguel who'd been called Juan the Lawn Monkey, despite his name being Miguel. A chef named Pierre who'd been forced to remake meals 7 times because Claudia enjoyed watching him suffer. She once made me stand in the corner for an hour, Elena testified. Like a child, because I used the wrong polish on the silver. She said I needed to learn my place through humiliation. But James also had to face his own failures with Simone. He reviewed his relationship with her honestly, without the haze of infatuation, and saw it clearly for the first time. Simone was kinder than Claudia, but she wasn't kind. She was less violent, but she wasn't good. He remembered a dinner where Simone had sent a steak back 3 times, each time berating the server more viciously. Do you not understand the concept of medium rare? Are you functionally illiterate? Should I draw you a picture with crayons? He remembered her laughing about getting a parking attendant fired for not bringing her car fast enough. These people need to learn there are consequences for incompetence. He remembered, with growing horror, that he'd laughed along, that he'd found her confidence attractive, that he'd mistaken cruelty for strength. Simone wasn't an escape from Claudia. She was a slightly better packaged version of the same disease. You're attracted to bullies, his therapist told him bluntly during their first session. You need to figure out why. The answer, painful and obvious, was his mother. She'd been elegant, sophisticated, and emotionally distant. She'd shown love through criticism, affection through control. She'd made him feel like he had to earn her approval every day. She died when James was 16, and he'd spent 29 years trying to recreate her in the women he chose. You're looking for your mother's approval through proxies, the therapist explained. Claudia and Simone aren't your partners. They're stand-ins for a woman who never gave you unconditional love. And you need to grieve that loss before you can build healthy relationships. The final confrontation happened at the mansion 2 weeks after the wedding. James called both women there, neither knowing the other would attend, neither knowing what was waiting for them. Claudia arrived first, dressed immaculately despite her temporary residence at the Plaza Hotel. Her arrogance had been restored after 2 weeks of reflection, not soul-searching, but strategy planning. James, darling, I knew you'd come to your senses eventually. Obviously, that little scene at the wedding was just stress, and that trollop's manipulation. Sit down, Claudia. Something in his tone made her pause. The room was different. A lawyer sat in the corner. Folders of evidence covered the table. And then Simone walked in. Claudia's face transformed into pure rage. What is SHE doing here? James, if you think you can. I said sit down. Both of you. Both women sat, though they chose opposite ends of the long conference table, radiating mutual hatred. James stood at the head of the table, a changed man. 2 weeks of therapy, 2 weeks of listening to victims' stories, 2 weeks of confronting his own complicity had transformed him. We're going to have a very honest conversation, he began. For once in your lives, both of you are going to listen without interrupting. And you're going to face the consequences of who you've chosen to be. Understood? James, I don't take orders from, Claudia began. You tried to murder my father. The room went silent. The security footage from our kitchen shows you putting 6 crushed laxative pills in his tea. The pharmacy records show you filled a prescription using a fake patient name 3 days before his visit. The medical testimony proves his condition was consistent with intentional poisoning, severe enough that he could have died from the dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. Claudia's face cycled through white to red to purple. You can't prove intent. Maybe I made a mistake with the dosage. 6 pills isn't a mistake, Claudia. It's attempted murder. And the security footage shows you smiling while you crushed them. You knew exactly what you were doing. He turned to include Simone before Claudia could respond. And you're not a victim here. You pursued a married man knowing exactly what you were doing. But more than that, you treat service workers like they're subhuman. You're cruel, dismissive, and arrogant to anyone you consider beneath you. I never claimed to be a saint, Simone said coolly, though her composure was cracking. Unlike your wife, I don't pretend. You both pretend. You both lie. You're both bullies who treat people like garbage because you think money and breeding make you superior. James's voice was steel. Well, I'm done. Done with both of you. Done with the cruelty. Done with the abuse. Done with being complicit in your reign of terror over everyone you deem unworthy. You can't be serious. Claudia stood up, her voice rising to its familiar pitch of entitled outrage. I'm your wife. You took vows. Until death do us part. You can't just discard me like I'm some common. Like you discarded Rosa Martinez when you slapped her and destroyed her livelihood? Like you discarded Maria when you threw champagne on her? Like you discarded my father when you poisoned him? Like you've discarded every person you've deemed beneath you. James opened the first folder, revealing Rosa's testimony and the video screenshot showing Claudia mid-slap. This is assault and battery against Rosa Martinez, a 60-year-old street vendor. This is attempted murder of Harold Whitmore, my father. This is workplace harassment and terroristic threatening of my employees. If you contest the divorce or ask for more than the prenup stipulates, I will file criminal charges for all of it. You will go to prison, Claudia. Is your pride worth that? For the first time in perhaps her entire life, Claudia Whitmore had no response. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The evidence was overwhelming. The video was damning. Her cruelty had finally been documented beyond denial. You wouldn't dare, she finally whispered. The scandal. Your reputation. I don't care anymore. My reputation was built on silence. On looking the other way. On enabling a monster because confronting her was uncomfortable. That reputation isn't worth protecting. James turned to Simone, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet throughout this exchange. As for you, you're banned from all my properties, my business locations, and any events I attend. If you contact me, I'll pursue harassment charges. If you contact my employees, I'll pursue stalking charges. We're done. You can't do this to me. Simone's composure finally shattered completely. I love you. I was there for you when she wasn't. I made you happy. No, you love what I represent. Money, status, access to power. That's not love. That's transaction. But I'm better than her. Simone pointed at Claudia with a trembling hand. I never tried to kill anyone. I never destroyed an old woman's life. I'm not like her. Setting a low bar doesn't make you good, Simone. It just makes you less bad. And less bad isn't good enough. Not anymore. The lawyer stepped forward with paperwork. Divorce documents for Claudia with detailed evidence attached. A restraining order for Simone with documented incidents of her cruelty to service workers. Both women were given 24 hours to remove their belongings from any Whitmore properties. This is insane. Claudia found her voice again, and with it, her usual venom. You're nothing without me, James. A social nobody. An awkward nerd with money. Without my family connections, you'd still be eating ramen in a studio apartment. I gave you everything. Your investors, your social standing, your entire life. You should be on your knees thanking me. I'm not thanking you for access to people who value cruelty as sophistication. They'll destroy you. The Westbrooks, the Vandermeers, the Chin family. Marcus will never forgive you for ruining his wedding. You'll be blacklisted from every club, every gala, every event that matters. Good. Your society is full of people like you. I'd rather be alone. Claudia's face contorted with rage. You think those pathetic little workers you're defending will respect you? They'll laugh at you. They'll see you as weak. A man who lets his wife go is a man who can't control anything. You're proving to the world that you're a failure. I don't want to control people, Claudia. That's the difference between us. That's the difference between who I was and who I'm becoming. Control is everything. She was screaming now, all pretense of sophistication burned away by rage. Without it, you're just another nobody letting life happen to you. I am superior to those people, to the Roses and the Mariahs and all the other faceless nobodies. They exist to serve people like me. That's the natural order. That's how the world works. There is no natural order, Claudia. There's just people. Some choose kindness. You chose cruelty. And now you face the consequences. Kindness is weakness. My mother taught me that. The Westbrook family didn't build empires by being nice. We built them by being strong, by taking what we wanted, by putting inferior people in their place. She grabbed her Hermes purse, her hands shaking with fury. Fine, fine. Take your pathetic moral high ground. Divorce me. Throw me away like garbage. I'll take half of everything anyway and find someone better. Someone who understands that power and status actually matter. Someone who isn't a spineless disappointment masquerading as a man. The prenup says otherwise. You get what you came into the marriage with, plus $5 million. That's it. $5 million. Claudia's laugh was unhinged, bordering on deranged. Do you know what my monthly expenses are? My wardrobe budget alone is $500,000 a year. $5 million won't last 2 years. Then I suggest you learn to budget. Or get a job. Though I doubt anyone will hire you once they see your references and the assault charges on your record. Claudia's face went through several shades of purple. Her carefully maintained composure had completely shattered, revealing the ugly core beneath the beautiful surface. You'll regret this. When you're alone and pathetic, when those common little workers you're protecting show their true colors and stab you in the back, when you realize that people like them are incapable of real loyalty or gratitude because they're fundamentally inferior, you'll come crawling back. And I'll laugh in your face. I'll laugh and tell everyone how the mighty James Whitmore begged his superior wife to take him back. I won't come back, Claudia. Because you're not superior. You're just cruel. And I'm finally able to see the difference. I am superior. She was shrieking now, completely unhinged, the mask of elegance completely destroyed. Because without me, you're nothing. A social zero. An awkward little man with money and no class. You need me to function. You need me to tell you what to wear, who to know, how to act. Without me giving you worth, you're just another tech nobody with money and no idea how to use it. Goodbye, Claudia. Security moved to escort her out. She fought them, screaming and flailing like a wild animal. Get your peasant hands off me. I'm a Westbrook. You can't touch me. I'll have your jobs. I'll ruin your lives. You're nothing. All of you. Nothing. Insects. Garbage. Less than human. Her screams echoed down the hallway even as the massive front doors closed behind her. Through the windows, they could see her continuing to scream at security, at the sky, at the universe that had finally told her no. Simone, who'd watched this complete meltdown with a mixture of satisfaction and fear, now realized she was next. Her composure returned like armor, but James could see the cracks. James, please. I'm not like her. I'm really not. You can see that, can't you? You're enough like her that I'm done, Simone. But we could be good together. Without her, we could actually build something real. I could change. Could you? James's voice was gentle but firm. Could you really stop looking down on servers? Stop mocking people you see as beneath you? Build a relationship based on mutual respect instead of shared contempt for others. Simone opened her mouth, then closed it. They both knew the answer. I thought so, James said. You are who you are, Simone. And who you are isn't someone I want in my life anymore. So what? You're going to become some kind of saint? Pretend you're better than you are? This is performative, James. In 6 months, you'll be miserable and alone. You'll realize that people like Claudia and me, we're honest about who we are. We don't pretend the world is fair or that everyone deserves kindness. We acknowledge reality. Your reality, not mine. Not anymore. Reality doesn't change based on your feelings, James. No, but my choices do. And I'm choosing differently. Goodbye, Simone. She stood, her composure fully restored now. Back straight, head high, the veneer of superiority firmly in place. Fine. When this little redemption arc fails, and it will fail, don't contact me. I don't do second chances with men who throw me away for moral posturing. I won't contact you. You say that now. But when you're alone at charity galas surrounded by judgmental people who remember you ruined the Chun wedding, when your precious worker friends realize you're still a billionaire and they still resent you for it, when you discover that nobility and loneliness are constant companions, you'll remember what you had with me. What I had with you was another version of what I had with Claudia, a relationship built on looking down at other people to feel elevated ourselves. I don't want that anymore. Simone's smile was cold. How noble. How utterly, tediously noble. Good luck with your new life, James. Try not to drown in your own self-righteousness. She left with more dignity than Claudia, but her parting glance was just as venomous. The door closed quietly behind her, but the contempt lingered in the air like smoke. James stood alone in the vast foyer of his mansion, a house that had never felt like a home, and felt something unexpected, relief. The weight of maintaining his relationship with both women, of navigating their egos and their cruelty, of being complicit in their abuse of others, it was finally, blessedly gone. His phone rang. Maria? Mr. Whitmore? Rosa wanted me to call. She heard about the divorce. She wanted to know if the offer still stands. About testifying. About getting justice. Tell Rosa yes. Absolutely yes. And tell her I'm sorry it took me this long to listen. To see. To act. There was a pause. She says thank you. And she says she'll pray for you. That you find peace. James felt tears sting his eyes. Tell her thank you. And Maria? Would you be willing to help me with something? A foundation. For service workers who've been abused by wealthy clients. Legal support, counseling, education grants. I want to build something that actually helps people instead of just helping my ego. Another pause, longer this time. Are you serious? Completely. I can write the checks, but I need someone who understands what these workers face. Someone who's lived it. Would you consider being the program director? Maria was silent for so long James thought she'd hung up. Then, on one condition. Rosa gets to be on the advisory board. Her voice matters just as much as any billionaire's. Done. Then yes. Yes, I'll help you. After they hung up, James walked through his mansion one last time. He was selling it. Too many bad memories, too much space for cruelty to echo. He'd already found a smaller place, still nice, but human scale. A place where he could live instead of rule. In his father's hospital room earlier that week, Harold had gripped his hand and said, "I'm proud of you, son. Took you long enough, but you got there. I almost lost you getting there. But you didn't. And now you know what matters. That's worth something." 6 months later, the Whitmore Foundation for Service Workers' Rights held its first annual gala. Unlike most charity events, half the attendees were the workers themselves, servers, hotel staff, retail employees, restaurant workers who'd experienced abuse and found support through the foundation. Rosa Martinez stood near the entrance, greeting guests. She wore a simple but elegant dress purchased with her first stipend from the foundation. She now served on the advisory board, her wisdom and experience valued more highly than any Harvard MBA. "Senor Whitmore," she said as James entered. "Thank you for this. For all of this. Thank you, Rosa. For your courage. For testifying. For trusting me despite having every reason not to. You earned the trust, Mijo. That's the difference." Maria stood at the podium in a professional suit, no longer a server but a director, a leader, an advocate. Her transformation from invisible worker to visible force had been remarkable. "A year ago," she began, "a very wealthy woman threw champagne on me and told me I was garbage. She was wrong. But for a long time, I believed people like her. Believed that because I served food, I was less than. That because I didn't have money, I didn't have worth." The room was silent, 500 people hanging on her words. This foundation exists because one man finally opened his eyes and saw what his privilege had blinded him to. But more importantly, it exists because we, all of us who've been dismissed, demeaned, and dehumanized, refuse to be invisible anymore. We refuse to accept that cruelty is sophistication. We refuse to believe that money equals worth. The applause was thunderous. James sat in the back, deliberately not at the head table. He didn't want this to be about him. It never should have been about him. Dr. Sarah Chun, now CEO of Whitmore Technologies, approached his table. "Good turnout. Maria did all the work. I just wrote checks. That's more than most would do. And it's a good use of your money." Sarah sat down. "I heard Claudia tried to contact you. Through her lawyer. Wanted to discuss reconciliation now that her money's running out. And I had my lawyer send back one word. No. Good. And Simone got married to her hedge fund manager. Saw the announcement on social media. They look perfect together, two people who think everyone else is beneath them. Are they happy? Probably not. Happy people don't need to constantly prove they're superior to everyone else." Sarah smiled. "I have something to tell you." "What?" "I'm seeing someone. It's early, but it's good. He's a teacher. Makes a fraction of what I do. Doesn't care about status or power. Just wants to build a life with someone." James felt genuine happiness for her. "That's wonderful, Sarah. I wanted you to know because I want you to know that the workplace thing, it was never real. Claudia was paranoid and racist and cruel, but she was wrong about me having feelings for you. I know. I should have defended you better. You should have. But you're defending people now. That counts for something." 1 year later, James Whitmore stood in front of a congressional committee, testifying in support of expanded protections for service workers nationwide. "For most of my marriage, I watched my ex-wife abuse, demean, and terrorize people who served us," he told the assembled politicians. "I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my problem, that she was just high maintenance or demanding. I used euphemisms to avoid confronting the truth. I was married to a bully, and I enabled her because confronting her was uncomfortable." He paused, looking at the faces before him, some sympathetic, some skeptical, all listening. "My father almost died because of my cowardice. Dozens of workers suffered because of my silence. An elderly street vendor named Rosa Martinez was assaulted, her livelihood destroyed, because people like my ex-wife believed their wealth gave them permission to hurt others. And I did nothing until the consequences became impossible to ignore." His voice strengthened. "I can't undo that. But I can stand here today and tell you that silence is complicity. That wealth doesn't grant permission to dehumanize others. That we need laws with teeth, real consequences for people who treat service workers as subhuman. Because right now, People like my ex-wife face no meaningful consequences for their cruelty. They move through the world destroying lives, and the system protects them because they have money and connections. The workers have nothing but their dignity, and even that gets stripped away daily by people who see them as less than human. We need to change that. We need the Whitmore Act. The bill passed 3 months later with bipartisan support. The Whitmore Act made harassment, assault, and threats against service workers a criminal offense with penalties ranging from fines to jail time, depending on severity. It included provisions for mandatory anger management and empathy training for first-time offenders, and escalating criminal penalties for repeat offenses. Rosa Martinez attended the signing ceremony at the White House. When the president handed her the pen used to sign the bill, she wept. "For my granddaughter," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. So she never has to be slapped by someone who thinks money makes them better than her. 2 years later, Claudia Westbrook Whitmore sat in a cafe in Monaco, nursing an espresso she'd made last twice as long as appropriate. She'd burned through her settlement faster than anyone predicted. Gambling, shopping, desperate attempts to maintain the lifestyle she believed was her birthright. Her European count had left her when he discovered she was broke. Her society friends had gradually stopped calling. Even her own mother, the formidable Catherine Westbrook, had told her 6 months ago, "You've become an embarrassment to the family name, Claudia. Perhaps it's time you learn some humility." Humility, as if that were something people like her should need. She'd seen the news about the Whitmore Act, about Rosa Martinez at the White House, about Maria running a foundation that was changing laws and changing lives. It made her physically ill. "They're celebrating mediocrity," she muttered to herself, scrolling through photos of the signing ceremony on her cracked iPhone screen. She couldn't afford the latest model anymore. They're rewarding people for just existing, for doing the bare minimum. A young server, nervous, new, probably 16, approached with a menu. "Madam, would you like to?" "Did I ask for a menu?" Claudia snapped, her voice carrying that old venom even though her clothes were last season and her shoes needed repair. "Do you see me looking at you? When I want something, I'll tell you. Don't presume to know what I need, you little—" "Excuse me." An older woman at the next table interrupted. She was American, well-dressed, probably 70. But that was completely unnecessary. Claudia turned, ready to unleash her full fury. "I'm sorry, who are you to tell me?" "Someone who knows exactly who you are, Claudia Westbrook Whitmore." The woman's voice was ice. "I saw the videos. Everyone saw the videos. You're the woman who slapped an elderly street vendor, who abused workers, who tried to poison her father-in-law." Claudia's face went white. That was all taken out of context. Was it? Because it looked pretty clear to me, and to millions of others. The woman stood, leaving cash on her table. "You know what the difference between you and me is? I earn my money. I built my business. And I treat people with respect because that's what decent humans do. You're just a trust fund brat who thought money meant you could hurt people without consequences." The woman walked out, and suddenly Claudia noticed other patrons staring, whispering. Some were pulling out phones. She grabbed her knockoff Birkin bag. The real one had been sold months ago, and fled the cafe, the young server's relieved expression burning in her peripheral vision. Outside, alone on the Monaco street, Claudia checked her bank balance. 847 euros. That was all that remained of her settlement, her jewelry sales, everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw you in Monaco. Still treating service workers like garbage? Some people never learn. Maria." That little bitch was taunting her. Claudia wanted to throw her phone, wanted to scream, wanted to storm back into that cafe and show them all who she really was. But who was she really? A divorced woman in her 30s with no job skills, dwindling money, and a reputation that preceded her everywhere. A woman whose own family had distanced themselves from her. A woman whose name was now synonymous with cruelty and entitlement. She was nothing. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She'd spent her entire life believing she was superior, that her name and breeding made her special. And now she had nothing. No husband, no money, no friends, no purpose. Just an empty designer bag and an even emptier life. Claudia walked back to her tiny studio apartment, such a come down from the mansion, and stared at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the reflection. The woman staring back looked tired, bitter, old before her time. They should be grateful to me, she whispered to her reflection. I could have been worse. I could have, but even she didn't believe it anymore. She pulled out her laptop and Googled herself. The first page of results was devastating. Claudia Whitmore, a cautionary tale of privilege gone wrong. Where is Claudia Whitmore now? The fall of a socialite bully. Rosa Martinez speaks. I forgive her, but I'll never forget. The Whitmore Act. How one woman's cruelty changed labor laws. There was a video titled Claudia Whitmore, a complete timeline of abuse. It had 4.7 million views. She couldn't stop herself from clicking it. For 45 minutes, she watched her own cruelty compiled and contextualized. The wedding disaster. Testimonies from Maria, Rosa, Elena the maid, Miguel the gardener. Expert psychologists analyzing her behavior patterns. Lawyers discussing the criminal charges James could have filed but chose not to pursue. The comments section was even worse. My mom was a housekeeper for people like this. Thank God for the Whitmore Act. Rich people really think they can treat us like dirt. Not anymore. I hope she's broke and miserable. She deserves every bit of it. Notice how she's only sorry now that she has no money? Typical narcissist. She'll never change. People like her are incapable of empathy. The last comment made her slam the laptop shut. She wasn't sorry. She refused to be sorry. Those people were beneath her. The world had just gone soft. Too politically correct. Too sensitive. Too willing to coddle the weak instead of celebrating the strong. But as she sat in her tiny apartment, eating budget pasta for the third night in a row, a small voice in her head whispered, "If you're so superior, why are you here? Why are you alone? Why did everyone leave?" Claudia poured herself a glass of cheap wine. The good stuff was long gone, and tried to silence that voice. She would never admit she was wrong. Never apologize. Never change. Some people are just incapable of growth, even when it's the only path to survival. 3 years later, Harold Whitmore celebrated his 80th birthday in his garden, surrounded by real family. Not the society kind, but the earned kind. James and Sarah, engaged now, slowly and carefully building something real. They dated for a year before he proposed, wanting to make sure this time was different. It was. Sarah understood that wealth was responsibility, not permission. She treated everyone with respect, from CEOs to janitors, because that's who she was. Maria and her husband Carlos, a teacher she'd met at a foundation event. They were expecting their first child, a daughter they'd already decided to name Rosa. Robert and his grandchildren, who called James Uncle James, despite no blood relation. Rosa Martinez, who'd become something of a grandmother figure to everyone in the foundation. She'd retired from her fruit stand and now spent her time training young vendors, testifying at labor rights hearings, and serving on the foundation's board. At 75, she was busier than ever and happier than she'd been in years. Elena, the former maid, now studying social work on a foundation scholarship. She wanted to help other domestic workers escape abusive situations. Miguel, the former gardener, who'd started his own landscaping company with a foundation small business loan. He now employed 15 people and treated them all with dignity. Amanda's widow and children, carrying on her legacy through the Protection Act that bore her name. They ate food from Harold's garden, prepared together. They told stories that made everyone laugh. They toasted with sparkling cider because Harold had given up alcohol after his poisoning, not out of fear, but out of choice. To survivors, Harold said, raising his glass, his voice still strong despite his age. To the people who endure the Claudias of the world and come out stronger. To the fighters, Maria added, her hand on her pregnant belly, who make sure there are fewer Claudias to endure. To change, James said quietly. To actually doing the work instead of just talking about it. To family, Rosa said, her weathered face bright with joy. The one we choose, not the one we're born into. To justice, Sarah added. Not revenge, but real accountability. That's what makes the difference. They drank, and the afternoon sun cast golden light over Harold's modest house. A house full of love, real and earned and true. James's phone buzzed. A news alert. Former socialite Claudia Whitmore arrested in Monaco for assaulting hotel worker. He showed it to Sarah, who read it and shook her head. Some people never learn. Should we do anything? No. Sarah squeezed his hand. She made her choices. She's living with the consequences. That's not your responsibility anymore. James deleted the alert and put his phone away. Sarah was right. Claudia's life was no longer his concern. His concern was here. This garden, these people, this real family built on mutual respect and genuine affection. This was what mattered. Harold appeared beside him, moving slower these days, but still sharp. You okay, son? Yeah, Dad. I'm really okay. Good. Because that. Harold gestured to the party, to the people laughing and sharing food and telling stories. That's what wealth should build. Not monuments to ego. Not ivory towers. Just connection. Community. Kindness. When did you get so wise? About 79 years ago. You just finally started listening. They laughed, and James felt something he'd never felt in his marriage to Claudia or his affair with Simone. Contentment. Not the desperate pursuit of status or the anxious maintenance of control. Just simple, earned peace. Maria approached with Carlos. James, Rosa wanted me to ask you something. She has a friend, another vendor who's being harassed by a wealthy client. The woman threatened to have her arrested for operating without a license, even though she has all her permits. Would the foundation? Absolutely. Have Rosa call me tomorrow. We'll get her friend protected and file charges against the harasser. Thank you. You know what Rosa says about you? What? She says you're proof that rich people can change. That redemption is possible. That it's never too late to choose kindness. James felt his throat tighten. Tell her that she's the one who taught me that. By choosing to forgive when she had every right to hate. After Maria walked away, Sarah leaned into James. You know what the best part of all this is? What? You're not performing anymore. You're not trying to be someone or prove something. You're just being. And the person you are? He's pretty good. James kissed her forehead. I had good teachers. People who showed me what actually matters. The party continued into the evening. At one point, someone ordered takeout, and James found himself laughing with the delivery driver about traffic patterns and the best routes through the city. The driver had no idea who he was. Just another customer. Just another person. It felt wonderful. Rosa sat with Harold in the garden as the sun began to set. Two elderly people who'd survived cruelty and chosen grace. You raised a good son, Rosa said. Took him a while to get there, Harold replied with a chuckle. But he made it. We all take our own time to grow. Some of us grow. Others. She trailed off, thinking of Claudia. Others stay stuck, Harold finished. But that's their choice, not ours. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the people they loved build a better world one small choice at a time. Rosa Martinez stood in the Smithsonian Museum, staring at an exhibit that still amazed her every time she visited Washington, D.C. The Whitmore Act, How Service Workers Changed America. The exhibit featured her story, Maria's story, and dozens of others. There were artifacts, the video of Claudia assaulting Rosa at the fruit stand, photos from the infamous wedding disaster, documentation of the fake pregnancy and poisoning attempt, the pen used to sign the Protection Act into law. But there was also hope, statistics showing the dramatic decrease in service worker abuse since the law passed, testimony from workers who'd used the act to protect themselves and achieve justice, photos of the foundation's scholarship recipients, over 500 young people getting educations they couldn't have afforded otherwise. A young woman approached Rosa, maybe 22, wearing a server's uniform with a name tag. Jasmine. Excuse me, are you the Rosa Martinez? Rosa smiled warmly. I am Mija. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. I work at a restaurant downtown, and last week a customer threw a drink at me because his steak wasn't cooked right. Just threw it right in my face and called me things I won't repeat. Rosa's expression hardened with understanding. What did you do? I remembered you. I remembered your story. So I reported him. Under the Whitmore Act. He was arrested. Actually arrested. His lawyer offered to settle for $50,000 to make the criminal charges go away. Did you take the settlement? No. I pressed full charges. Because of you. Because you showed us that we don't have to accept abuse just because someone has money. My manager tried to talk me out of it, said I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I thought about you getting slapped at your fruit stand. I thought about how scared you must have been. And I decided to be brave for both of us. Rosa pulled Jasmine into a hug. This young woman she'd never met, but whose courage she'd somehow inspired. You were always brave, Mija. You just needed permission to show it. He was convicted yesterday. Jasmine continued. wiping her eyes. 60 days in jail, mandatory anger management, and he's banned from the restaurant. And I gotta keep my job. 5 years ago, I would have been fired for complaining. But now we have protection. Because of you. After Jasmine left, Rosa stood before the exhibit a moment longer. She was 75 now, her fruit-selling days long behind her, but her advocacy work just beginning. She served on the foundation board, testified at labor hearings across the country, trained young vendors in their rights, and visited schools to talk about dignity and respect. She thought about Claudia sometimes. Not with anger. Anger was too heavy to carry at her age. But with something like pity. Claudia had been given everything Rosa had never had. Money, education, opportunity, privilege. And she'd used it all to hurt people. What a waste of a life. Rosa thought about James too, with genuine fondness. He'd used his second chance to build something meaningful. Not everyone did that. Not everyone could. He'd faced his complicity, done the work to change, and was now raising 2 children who understood that privilege meant responsibility, not permission. She thought about Maria, now the mother of 2-year-old Rosa and newborn Amanda. About Elena, now a licensed social worker helping domestic abuse survivors. About Miguel's landscaping company that treated workers like family. About all the lives touched by one moment of accountability. One slap had changed everything. Not because of the slap itself, but because someone finally witnessed it, documented it, and refused to let it disappear into silence. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maria. Mom just called. Baby Amanda took her first steps. Can you believe it? 2 kids named after women who fought for justice. Their legacy continues. Rosa Martinez sat down on a museum bench, surrounded by the evidence of how far they'd all come, and wept. Happy tears. Grateful tears. Redemptive tears. She'd survived a monster and helped slay a system that protected monsters. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. In a Monaco jail cell, Claudia Westbrook Whitmore sat with her head in her hands, her once perfect manicure chipped and broken. The hotel worker she'd slapped, a young Moroccan immigrant named Amina, had pressed charges under Monaco's version of the Whitmore Act, inspired by the American legislation now spreading worldwide. Amina reminded Claudia too much of Rosa Martinez. The same quiet dignity, the same humble work ethic, the same inferior status that Claudia couldn't tolerate. When the room service arrived 5 minutes late, Claudia had simply snapped. She'd called Amina third world trash and an illegal parasite and slapped her across the face hard enough to knock the young woman into the service cart. Someone in the hallway had filmed it. The video went viral within 2 hours. Hashtag Claudia Strikes Again trended worldwide. News outlets called it the return of the socialite monster. Now she faced actual jail time. Not a fine she could pay. Not a settlement she could negotiate. Actual prison, in a foreign country, with no one to bail her out and no money left to hire expensive lawyers. Her attorney, a young public defender who looked at her with barely concealed contempt, had been brutally blunt. Plead guilty and show genuine remorse. It's your only option. Even then, you're looking at 6 months minimum. I'm not apologizing to that. Then you'll serve the full 2-year sentence. In a Monaco prison, where everyone knows who you are, what you've done, and why you're there. The guards are service workers too, Mrs. Whitmore. Think about that. Claudia couldn't do it. Couldn't apologize. Couldn't admit she was wrong. Even now, even here, even facing 2 years in a foreign prison, her pride wouldn't allow it. I'm a Westbrook, she told the lawyer, her voice hoarse from screaming. My family. Your family disowned you 3 years ago, Mrs. Whitmore. They issued a public statement saying you don't represent Westbrook values and that they've established a scholarship fund for service workers in an attempt to atone for the damage one family member has caused. Did you not see it? She had seen it. She'd just refused to believe it mattered. Her mother's statement had been particularly cutting. Claudia learned nothing from our family except entitlement. The Westbrooks built our fortune through innovation and hard work, treating employees with respect. My daughter represents everything we stand against. She is no longer welcome in our family or our businesses. Now, sitting in a cell that smelled of disinfectant and despair, wearing an orange jumpsuit that would have horrified her former self, Claudia finally understood. She'd lost. Not just the marriage, not just the money, not just the status, but the war itself. The world had changed. The Whitmore Act and laws like it had changed it. Service workers weren't invisible anymore. They had protection, rights, voices, power. And people like Claudia? They were the ones becoming invisible. Irrelevant. Cautionary tales told to teach children how not to be. She could have changed. At any point, she could have chosen differently. After the wedding disaster, she could have sought help, acknowledged her cruelty, begun therapy. After the divorce, she could have reflected, learned, grown. After her money ran out, she could have humbled herself, found honest work, rebuilt. After the first viral video, she could have apologized, made amends, changed course. After her family disowned her, she could have hit rock bottom and finally looked up. But she'd chosen pride over growth at every turn. Cruelty over kindness. Superiority over humanity. Ego over evolution. And now she'd chosen prison over apology. A guard appeared at her cell. Whitmore. Phone call. Your lawyer again. Claudia was escorted to the phone room, her hands cuffed, her designer heels replaced with cheap rubber sandals. Mrs. Whitmore. The lawyer's voice was tired. I have a message from Amina, the woman you assaulted. I don't want to hear anything from that. She's willing to drop the charges if you issue a public apology and agree to pay for her medical bills and lost wages. About €15,000 total. She doesn't want revenge. She just wants acknowledgement and compensation. €15,000. Claudia had once spent that much on a single handbag. Tell her no. Mrs. Whitmore, this isn't incredibly generous. Tell her no. I won't apologize to someone like her. I won't give her the satisfaction. I won't admit that we're equals when we're not. There was a long silence on the line. Then you'll serve the full sentence. 2 years. And given your attitude, they likely won't grant parole. You'll serve every single day. So be it. At least I'll have my dignity. You'll have your pride, Mrs. Whitmore. That's not the same as dignity. The lawyer hung up. Claudia was escorted back to her cell. As she walked through the prison, other inmates stared. Some whispered. One called out, "Hey, you're that rich bitch from the videos. Welcome to the real world." Laughter followed her down the corridor. In her cell, Claudia lay on the thin mattress and stared at the ceiling. 2 years. 730 days. In a foreign prison. Alone. Despised. Forgotten by everyone except as a cautionary tale. She could end it with one apology. One admission of fault. One moment of humility. But she wouldn't. Some people never learn. Some people can't be saved from themselves. Some people choose their pride over their freedom, their ego over their future, their false superiority over their actual humanity. Claudia Westbrook Whitmore was one of those people. And that, ultimately, was her real prison. Not the cell with bars, but the cage she'd built inside her own mind. A cage she'd locked herself inside and thrown away the key. Rosa Martinez lived to be 85, long enough to see 3 of her great-grandchildren graduate from college on Whitmore Foundation scholarships. Maria's memoir, From Invisible to Invincible, a server's story, became a bestseller and was adapted into a film. She used the proceeds to expand the foundation internationally. James and Sarah raised 2 children who volunteered at the foundation every summer and grew up understanding that wealth was responsibility, not permission. Harold lived to 92, dying peacefully in his garden, surrounded by the family he'd chosen and the son he'd saved. The Whitmore Act spread to 73 countries, protecting millions of service workers worldwide. Rosa's face appeared on a U.S. postage stamp honoring labor rights heroes. Claudia served her full 2 years in Monaco, was deported back to the United States, and lived out her remaining years in a small apartment in Atlantic City, working part-time at a convenience store. She never apologized, never changed, never learned. She died alone at 67, her obituary a single paragraph in a local newspaper. No family attended her funeral. The Westbrook name continued to thrive through charitable foundations, business innovations, and a family that had learned to value character over lineage. But Claudia's true legacy lived on in a different way. In every server who stood up to abuse, every vendor who reported harassment, every worker who knew their dignity was protected by law. Her cruelty had inadvertently sparked a revolution. That was the only good thing she ever did, and she did it completely by accident. Because in the end, this was never Claudia's story. It was Rosa's story, Maria's story, the story of every person who'd been deemed invisible and refused to stay that way. It was the story of one man who finally opened his eyes and chose to see. It was the story of a system that finally said enough and meant it. And it was the story of how cruelty, when finally exposed and held accountable, can accidentally plant the seeds of justice. Some people change, some people don't, but the world changes anyway. And that was everything.